my daddy sat me down. He said, son, don't you never go to the dark side of town. I'm talking downtown Memphis. See, that's where the black folk play. And I said, yes, sir, daddy. Then I snuck down anyway. See, never was taught to read none. No, never taught to write. The only thing my daddy taught was that white should stay with white. But I heard it through the alleys, it floated on the breeze. It burst out through the doorways, and it knocked me to my knees. It broke down all my senses, yet made me feel so. See, I was lost until I found the music of my soul. The music of my soul. Then one day my daddy died, and we laid him in his grave. And my mama, she cried and cried and cried and prayed that he'd be saved. But all I felt was pity. I thought he never understood. How could people be so bad? That made me feel so good. And where I threw my body ended, grabbed me by my heart. It broke down all my senses, yet made me feel so. And I will love it till the day I die. The music of my soul. It broke down all my senses, yet made me feel so. See, I was lost until I found. I was deaf until I heard. I'll make this world come around to the music of my soul. The music of my soul.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, I could offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love. When the evening shadows and the stars appear, and there's no one there to dry your tears, I could hold you for a million years to make you feel my love. I know you haven't made your mind up yet, but I will never do you wrong. I'd go crawling down the avenue. You know there's nothing that I wouldn't do to make you feel my love. The storms are raging on the rolling sea, and on the highway of regret. The winds of change are blowing wild and free. You ain't seen nothing like me yet. I could make you happy, make your dreams come true. You know there's nothing that I wouldn't do. Go to the ends of the earth for you, to make you feel my love, to make you feel my love.
Okay, not too far back. Huh? Oh, okay. Ready? Why should I feel discouraged? And why should the shadows come? And why should my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is he. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. And I know, and I know, and I know he watches me. Thank you. Come on.
On a chord? No, hold on. Will it reach?
That's good. Nope. Where do you want it? In front of you? Either one's fine. Okay. Be quiet. I'm playing the piano and singing. I don't need you to love me.
I've got my sister. I can't see her now, she may not be here, but she's still mine, I know. She still loves me. I've got my children, I can't hold them now, they may not be here, but they're still mine, I know, I know. I still love them. Got my house, it still keeps the cold out. Got my chair where my body can hold out. Got my hands doing good like they supposed to. Showing my heart to the folks that I'm close to. Got my eyes so they don't see it's fun now. They see more of how things really are now. I'm gonna take a deep breath. I'm gonna hold my head up. Gonna put my shoulders back and look you straight in the eye. Gonna flirt with somebody when they walk by. I'm gonna sing, sing. I believe I have inside of me everything that I need to live a bountiful life. With all the love inside of me, I'll stand as tall as the tallest tree. But I'm thankful for each day that I'm given, but the easy and hard ones I'm living. I'm beautiful. Yes, I'm beautiful. And I'm here.
Wow, what talent we have.
Well, this has got the little thing up here. Sort of like it. Oh, there it is. Yep. It is free.
Are you going to say anything about starting already? The Florida massacre? You're going to talk about them? Florida? No, but yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Waterbury Board of Education regular meeting. We'll begin this evening with a prayer, and we ask Deputy Superintendent Henry.
Good evening. In our moment of silence this evening, let us remember Dr. Charles Joy, who passed away on January 18th. Dr. Joy served at Waterbury Public Schools Assistant Superintendent for instruction for 10 years and retired in 1995. We'd like us to remember Dr. Joy and recognize his service and dedication to the students of Waterbury Public Schools. In addition, we're asking that tonight we should remember the 17 students tragically lost their lives yesterday at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Our thoughts and prayers go out to their families and everyone affected.
Thank you. Commissioner Jason Van Stone, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome, everyone. And thank you again to the students at WAMS. Let's give them a round of applause.
Commissioner Watt,
Here.
Vice President Harvey,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Serrano Adorno, here. Commissioner Stango,
Here.
Commissioner Sweeney,
Here.
Commissioner Theriault,
Here.
Commissioner Jason Van Stone,
Present.
Commissioner Tom Van Stone, President Brown.
Present. Thank you. Next on the agenda is communications. We have a copy of communications dated January 16th, 2018 from Civil Service, certifying Maria Jimenez for the position of Supervising Vice Principal, Tinker, and Laura Curley Colon for the position of Supervising Vice Principal, Gilmartin. Email communication dated January 18th, 2018 from CABE regarding policy highlights. Communication dated January 18 from Arbiter Leslie Williamson, Jr. regarding arbitration award in the matter of Waterbury Board of Education and SAW. Copy of communication dated January 23rd from Civil Service, certifying Ann Phelan for the position of Human Resources Generalist. Communication dated January 24th from Robert Goodridge regarding race statement. Communication dated January 27 from Danielle Albert regarding follow-up tag letter. Communication dated January 30th from Civil Service, certifying Angela Dodwell and Amy Saraducio for the position of ABA Behavioral Therapist. Communication dated January 30th from Civil Service to Maria Talbot and Portia Davis regarding their acceptance of offer for the position of lunch aide. Communication dated January 30th from Civil Service certifying Lucesta Rivera for the position of Student Registration Specialist. And communication dated February 9th from Louise Allen Brown regarding School Security Competitive Grant Award, Round 3. Communication February 12th from Louise Allen Brown regarding new state-funded after-school grant awards. And finally, communication dated February 12th from Louise Allen Brown regarding new 21st Century Community Learning Centers after-school grant awards. May I have a motion?
Motion to receive and place on file. Communications is read.
Second.
Point of order. My point of order is I had a request for a communication, an email communication, which you, President Brown, vetoed through the clerk of the board. I just want that to go on the record. Thank you.
Discussion on the communications before us. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we will have the public address from the board.
Motion to suspend the regular order of business to hear from the public.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All speakers are encouraged to submit prepared written statements to the commissioners. Comments shall be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. There will be no responses from the board this evening, but no, we will take into consideration your issues and get back to you. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who did not sign up who wishes to speak? Seeing none, can we return to the regular?
Make a motion to return to the regular business.
Second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Deputy Superintendent.
Good evening again. I'd like to begin this report simply by wishing everyone a belated Happy Valentine's Day. I know that it's a day when we talk about love, yes, but it also provides an opportunity each year for us to reflect on friendships as well as carrying out good deeds. Our second announcement is a reminder that we're continuing to celebrate Black History Month. While history is infused throughout the entire year in our curriculum, this is a time for us to actually highlight some of those achievements. And we have revised our calendar, and we ask that you take a look at it and the district's website. Please note that based on a number of snow days that we have had, some of those events have had change of dates, and so we're asking you to please look at our website again. Thirdly, I want to also share with you that our students and staff are working very hard at this time of the year as we're starting to prepare for the upcoming testing cycle. Our students in grades 3 through 8 will be taking the Smarter Balance Assessment in math and English Language Arts. That will start late March and it will go through May. Students currently are taking what we are calling interim assessments during the school hours, and in addition to that, we are exposing students to how to navigate the actual test itself online. Still around testing, our 11th graders will be taking the SAT on March 21st, and also our students will be engaging in the new Generation Science Standards Test, which is going to be administered this year. We request that parents observing or listening tonight to please visit the Waterbury Public Schools homepage. We are providing some useful resources and information regarding testing opportunities that your child can actually take advantage of. You read, or our president read, a number of communications that talked about grants that the school district has received. Once again, we need to congratulate Louise Brown, who has written most of these, and they have been extremely helpful to the district, particularly in times when we are struggling with the finances overall. I'd like to mention some of them. The Connecticut Department of Energy Services and Public Protection Division of the Emergency Management and Homeland Security has awarded Waterbury schools, 14 of our schools, about $425,000, which is intended to improve communication systems, and that communication is to make us more effective during any emergency. In addition to that, we received 2 new 21st Century Community Learning Center after-school programs. Those will be going to Carrington and Gilmartin, as well as Reed and Duggan School. Those are intended to be for a 5-year period and is close to $1.5 million over that 5-year period. We also received 2 new after-school program grants from the State Department of Education, and those are $500,000, $500,000 over a 2-year period. Those will be going to Wallace and Westside Middle, as well as Kingsbury School. The focus of those will be literacy, science, technology, arts, recreation, healthy living, and positive youth development. The next item has to do with our celebration of African American Mayor for the day, Mrs. Shirley Norman, who is a retired Waterbury Public Schools teacher and administrator, will be honored on February 21st at 10 a.m. at City Hall. An additional announcement, students' artwork will be displayed at a Manitowoc Museum from February 22nd to April 22nd, and there will be a reception on March 20th at 5:30, at 5 up to 6:30. And the art exhibition is called Outrageous, a season of many colors. The Title I District Parent Advisory Council is hosting a meeting for parents Wednesday, February 21st. It has to do with keeping children during the flu season in good health. This meeting is going to take place at Reed School, and it will start at 5 p.m. as well. We will be hosting, in terms of the Waterbury Public Schools, our first middle school robotics competition, and that will be held on Saturday, February 24th. It will be held at Westside Middle School at their cafeteria, beginning at 9 and ending at noon. There'll be teams from Westside, Wallace, North End, and Enlightenment, and those particular sessions or the competitions will be run by our robotics teams from both Kennedy and Crosby High Schools. An additional announcement, the Connecticut PTA is conducting an information session for parents on March 7th, Crosby High School, and the idea is to learn all about what it takes to start a PTA in the schools. Finally, just a reminder that schools will in fact be closed on Monday and Tuesday, February 19th and the 20th, in observance of Lincoln's birthday and President's Day. This concludes the Deputy Superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. Lots of wonderful activities. I have no comments this evening, and with the permission of the board, I'd like to go to number 12, the Committee of the Whole. Vice President Harvey.
Thank you. We're looking at item 12.1. Ladies and gentlemen, the Committee of the Whole recommends
Point of order,
approval.
we need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. We need a motion to go out of order. Can I have a motion, please?
Okay.
Move that we
Motion.
resolve the committee of the whole to address items number 12.1 and 12.2.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. So we're all set now?
We're legal.
All right. Item 12.1, ladies and gentlemen, the Committee of the Whole recommends approval of the recommended new salary range of the Superintendent of Schools as follows, ranging from $175,000 to $225,000,
No, that's not it.
and moving to $185,000 to $245,000. Respectfully submitted and so moved.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Van Stone.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you. Fortunately, I wasn't able to be at the discussion Tuesday evening when this was discussed. Certainly understand why we would want to look to broaden the range. Unfortunately, in these economic times, and not sure, certainly if you look back on our last few superintendents, the track records, we're not doing well. So to just open up a wider range, I think, is difficult for a number of reasons, mainly the economic times. We're certainly seeing less money coming from the state. We're going to try to have to juggle a little bit on positions we currently have, and it's just going to be very, very difficult. Again, I truly understand why we would like to broaden the range, but I'm not sure necessarily, because our track record so far of throwing money at things just haven't worked. So I would prefer to keep the current range. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Van Stone, then Commissioner Theriault, then Commissioner Stango.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, Not to belabor the point, but I am in agreement. I'm not too sure that right now in these times, raising the salary range makes sense. I was able to do a little bit of research over the past couple days since Tuesday, and it is the internet, so forgive me if the numbers are a little bit off, but right now the average median in the United States for a superintendent is about $180,000. Anything over $200,000 is above the 85th percentile. So the original argument that we need to have something in the 220s to draw people from other states doesn't seem to hold water. Additionally, I was able to learn that the current superintendent in Norwalk does have a bonus structure in their contract. I know that didn't seem to get much traction at the last meeting, the idea of paying someone once they performed. But I think I'd be more interested in having a superintendent come in with still a pretty good salary at $195,000 or whatever it'll be, and come and make some of that change before we start backing up the Brinks trucks from. So I will not be in support of the new range tonight. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Commissioner Theriault.
Outrageous. That's it.
Commissioner Stango.
Thank you, President Brown. People paying attention, you all know that I have never shied away from voting for dollar items if I was convinced that it was for the good of the district and for the students. And I will continue to do that. However, in this case, I don't think it will achieve what it is intended to do. I feel it sends the wrong message to the public at these times. We have all heard Dyer talk about the budget recently. The mayor spoke passionately about the SAW contract costs last week. We have seen reports from the state regarding ECS funding. We have pondered reports from our own finance committee regarding alliance funding and issues. Money or lack of it is always a concern, and it will always be a concern. We do need to prioritize where the money goes. I believe our next superintendent is going to need support from day one. One thing we need to do is we need to search for, going forward, a full-time chief operating officer / chief of staff. That is, in my view, imperative that we have that position in place and that we fill it. The superintendent, whoever it is that comes in, is going to need that support. And I believe that wholeheartedly, and that would be more money. I'm not in favor of increasing the range at this time. I believe that in the end, the new superintendent's starting salary will be about the same, regardless of what the range is voted on tonight. Perhaps, though, if this search fails because of that salary, I hope it doesn't, but if it fails, and then we need to revisit it, I would entertain the thought of that raising, but not at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments, Commissioner Awad?
It's no secret that Commissioner Tom Van Stone and I tend to agree from time to time, but tonight I think we're going to disagree. And Tom, Commissioner, I don't mean to be so informal. Your comment about economic times being difficult is well heard, but I think our educational times in this town are even in more dire straits. When we look at the test scores, which is something that's near and dear to Commissioner Theriault's heart, and when we look at the cost of the operations budget of this city, I can see why people are concerned that changing the range, again, that we're not creating a contractual obligation, we're increasing the range for an opportunity to secure a superintendent that can move the needle after we've read in the paper the last few days, hasn't budged in 15 years. So if by changing a range, we can attract a candidate that might be able to come here, roll up his or her shirt sleeves and dive deep, I would be for it. Some of the other things that I think we need to remember, as Commissioner Van Stone pointed out about our budget, the SAW negotiations have resulted in some flexibility and our ability to make some structural changes in central office without creating bumping rights that allow either this board or the new superintendent to make some changes and free up some money and perhaps change the structure of central office. So I think there's dollars available there as we all raise the red flag about the money. As I said the other day, and I'll say it again, I'm in support of this. I'm in support of finding the best candidate, and if by changing a range will increase the likelihood that someone takes a second look at a district that's troubled, then I'm all for it, and I'll be supporting this tonight.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to go down memory lane a little bit, over the last 6 years, this administration has averaged less than 1.5% per year in spending. Less than 1.5%. There's not a city in Connecticut that has averaged less than 1.5% in spending. We've gone to binding arbitration with the police, with the fire, with the SAW. We're very fiscally conservative. I think you all know that. But I might remind you that this board is not so fiscally conservative when it comes to passing along a budget each and every year of those 6 years over to my office. Your budgets range anywhere from 2 to 3.5% increases year over year. Yet you're questioning this administration on a salary range increase. A salary range increase that just may attract a candidate that wouldn't be otherwise interested in coming here. A salary range increase doesn't mean it's an absolute increase. It could be if we found a candidate that could move the needle in this district forward, which under your leadership hasn't done so in 15 years. Now, certainly not all of you are responsible for that. As I look around the table, most of you are not. But I would think you might jump at the chance to have an opportunity to attract a candidate for superintendent of this school district that might actually show marked or measurable or incremental or slight improvement, which you haven't seen. We hired a national search firm to find the right superintendent to lead this district. That national search firm has recommended this salary range change. So I find it rather interesting that we're talking about $10,000 on the low end, $20,000 on the high end, and you guys are worried about that, yet each and every year, the last 6 years, most of you at this table are responsible for sending me a budget with millions of dollars in increases. I say we show the public we're trying to find and prospective candidates for superintendent throughout the land that we're trying to do the right thing to attract a leader to be the superintendent of this school district that might actually move the needle forward. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Thurio.
Currently, when we look at the amount of money that we're spending on a superintendent, just to keep you kind of up to snuff, it's about $1,000 a day. Now, people in Waterbury, when they take a look at that $1,000 a day, there are some people in Waterbury that don't make $1,000 a month. $1,000 a day. Now we're going to raise that to $1,300 a day. That would be including the maybe $20,000 or $30,000 annuity. But just to keep in perspective, you know, we're not living in the Gold Coast or down in Greenwich or one of these places that's fancy and highfalutin. You know, we're blue-collar workers, many of us. We came up the rough way in a shop town, and now all that has changed, and people are really struggling in this town. And I do agree with some of the arguments from the mayor and Commissioner Awad, and they are good, sound arguments. But I just want you to know where we are in terms of the, you know, in terms of the race and in terms of the goalpost and in terms of the finish line. If you're going to start off on the 50-yard line, you're going to start to pay a superintendent $245,000, plus maybe a $30,000 annuity, plus medical and fringe benefits. It's a big nut. So that's my opinion, with all due respect to the other commissioners, and they have good, strong arguments. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Madam President?
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Van Stone.
Just for the record, while the mayor is correct and should be outraged by some of the budgets we've sent to him, the people who are voting against the range tonight are the same people who voted against those budgets.
I didn't hear that.
Commissioner Watt,
Yes.
Vice President Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano Adorno,
No.
Commissioner Stango,
No.
Commissioner Sweeney,
Yes.
Commissioner Theriault,
No.
Commissioner Jason Van Stone,
No.
Commissioner Tom Van Stone,
No.
President Brown,
Yes.
Mayor O'Leary.
He doesn't.
I didn't hear the tally.
It's 5-5.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the job description,
All right. Item
12.2.
Item 12.2, ladies and gentlemen, the Committee of the Whole recommends approval of the recommended revisions to the job description of the Superintendent of Schools as follows. Required experience and training. Candidates must demonstrate leadership ability and be in possession of or eligible for a Connecticut State Certificate of Superintendent of Schools, referred to as an 093. Candidates must have either an earned doctorate in education from an accredited college or university approved by the Connecticut State Department of Education and have 3 or more years' experience as a central office administrator at the level of Assistant Superintendent of Schools, Waterbury equivalent, or above at a K through 12 system, or appropriately certified holding degrees below the doctorate and have 5 or more years' experience as a central office administrator at the level of Assistant Superintendent of Schools, Waterbury equivalent, or above in a K through 12 system. Candidates must have at least 5 or more years educational experience as a school-based administrator, principal, vice principal, or equivalent in a large urban school district with more than 10,000 students. Respectfully submitted and so moved.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Van Stone, then Commissioner Stango.
As I said in the committee meetings earlier, I think for an educator to attain their doctorate shows a level of commitment that is second to none. Holding your master's in 30 is a tremendous level, and one everyone should be proud of. It's more than I got. But for the city to remove the doctoral preference, I think is a misstep. Again, doing some research online, looking at, we're generally considered the 10 highest performing, most ethnically diverse cities of 100,000 people or more. Top 10, 8 of those superintendents hold doctorates. That doesn't mean that's why they're great, but in a world that is driven by data, I think it is something we need to consider. That I'm all for opening pools and getting more potential people, but that's why we just raised this range, was for the pool. I think it is a mistake to remove the doctoral preference, and if it remains in, I'll be voting against this new change language tonight. Thank you, Madam President.
Commissioner Stango.
Thank you, Madam President. Do I believe a superintendent needs a doctorate to do a good job in administrating a district? No, I don't believe that. Do I believe the Waterbury superintendent should have a doctorate? And that one, yes, I do. Many smaller suburban districts employ such superintendents, and they have excellent results for various reasons, due to the student body, the parent life, due to the size of the district. However, Waterbury has a long tradition of hiring superintendents with doctorates, and we have many teachers in Waterbury who have doctorates. And in a sense, if this goes through, we were asking those teachers that we have with doctorates to answer to a superintendent, work with a superintendent who doesn't have a doctorate. I believe that they can do that. It just makes it a little bit more tenuous. This board voted to keep that requirement 6 years ago, and I, for one, voted for it then, and I will do so again. As I stated before, and as Commissioner Van Stone touched on, to me, having a doctorate is evidence of many good things. It tells me the person is a goal setter. He knows how to organize. She has vision, has perseverance. He is willing to work hard and willing to work long hours. She has follow-through and determination. These things are that the doctorate brings to the table, and these attributes are what I want for our superintendent to bring to our district. And in that, I will be voting no to disregard the doctorate.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Madam President. I had to take a deep breath here because although I respect what has been voiced here tonight, let me just say, I like the doctorate. As I expressed in the past, you know, that's my next step. I have a master's degree. The next step is a doctorate. But if we look at, first of all, if we think about our kids and, you know, where they have been for the past 6 years as far as achievement, we've had doctorates and it hasn't moved. Nothing has moved. When as far as having vision, a doctorate, I have a master's degree, I have vision. I think if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. We have to start thinking about our kids, and we need to do something different. Now, we have kept in, under the recommendation of Mr. Rush, we have the doctorate still in there, the EDD. We have an or in the position, which is the master's. I think that would open up for more candidates, and maybe we can get something that will hopefully move the target a little bit more for our kids. I am for what Mr. Rush has recommended. That is to remove the preference for the doctorate and to include the master's degree. I think, again, we have to start thinking about our kids. When I take time to spend time with kids during the summer, and I look at their reading, their math, etc., and what improvements have been made, I applaud our staff for doing and all the work that they've done. But nothing has moved. We have to do something different. So I am in support of this recommendation from Mr. Rush, and I look forward to us moving forward and moving our kids forward. Thank you.
Commissioner Awad.
Thank you. I agree with Charles that the Waterbury's had a long history of having a PhD in the position. But those that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And I think it's time that we opened up the opportunity for others to at least apply. As Commissioner Harvey points out, the PhD is still there. We're just allowing other people to apply. As Commissioner Sweeney pointed out in the workshop, they're going to go through a civil service process, all of the applicants, and we're going to get the top 5. Shouldn't we allow ourselves to at least have the opportunity to look at as many potential candidates when we're really going to see the 5? Because that's what we're going to get to choose from. And the only other point that I'll make, and I don't mean to pick on Commissioner Stango, but you talked about someone with a PhD has a commitment to their own education, and I appreciate that. But I'm looking for somebody with a commitment to our children's education.
That's right.
And so I'll be supporting changing the description tonight.
Any other comments? Mayor O'Neill.
Quickly, I'll just return back to the process. So we went ahead and spent an awful lot of money and hired a search firm, a nationally renowned search firm, because we all agreed at that time it was worth to spend, we felt, the extra money to secure what was the best search firm that had come forth for this process. This best search firm that we all agreed upon has recommended that we open this pool of candidates up. As Commissioner Awad points out, all we're doing is looking for a wider pool of candidates. We certainly could end up and might end up with the top 5 candidates all having the doctorate. We might. But guess what? Commissioner Jason Van Stone's point, out of the top 10 superintendents, 8 of the top 10 had the doctorate. 2 didn't. So who knows? We just may end up with that diamond in the rough. I don't know. But what I do know is that we're going to give others, and we're going to show the public, we're going to show the superintendents and the assistant superintendents and the deputy superintendents out there that we are serious about finding qualified candidates to lead this district forward. So again, I'm going to go back to the process that we paid all this money for and say, I think we're not being open-minded if we're not going to accept the recommendation of Dr. Rush and his team to make the changes that are in front of us tonight. Thank you.
Any other comments? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Awad?
Yes.
Vice President Harvey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano-Adorno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stango?
No.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Yes.
Commissioner Theriault?
No.
Commissioner Jason Van Stone?
No.
Commissioner Tom Van Stone?
Yes.
President Brown?
Yes.
7-3, motion passes.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. And could I ask the indulgence of the board? We have members here who are going to be new staff, so I wondered if we could go to number 10. Could I have a motion to go to number 10? So we don't have to do that?
We have to leave the board, committee of the whole.
Yeah, just make a motion to go.
Move to return to regular order of business, resolve on committee of the whole.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And now I would ask to go to number 10.
Number 10, 10.1, Waterbury Arts Magnet School Assistant Principal Appointment. You get my right packet? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee on School Personnel, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools recommends approval of the appointment of Jennifer A. Deely as Waterbury Arts Magnet School Assistant Principal, effective February 21st, 2018, respectfully submitted. And so moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay. All,
Sister Henry say anything?
yes, okay. All right, go ahead.
We're gonna do, yeah.
It is my pleasure to present to you this evening Jennifer Deely, who happens to be my recommended candidate for Vice Principal of Waterbury Arts Magnet School. Ms. Deely has in fact been serving as a teacher within Waterbury Public Schools for the last 19 years. She has been an administrator during the summer school programs, head coach at Kennedy High School, head coach, and interim vice principal at Wilson School. Her principal has described her as having extraordinary leadership skills and an effective educator. So with that, I welcome and present to the board the candidate. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Discussion.
Commissioner Wad?
Yes.
Vice President Harvey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano-Adorno?
Yes.
Commissioner Stango?
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Yes.
Commissioner Theriault?
Yes.
Commissioner Jason Van Stone?
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Van Stone?
Yes.
President Brown?
Yes. 10-0, unanimous. Congratulations.
Mayor O'Leary, Deputy Superintendent Mr. Henry, President Brown, Vice President Harvey, and all commissioners of the Board of Education, thank you for this tremendous opportunity. And I look forward to working with the students, family members, community, Board of Education, administration, to enforce the environment of achievement, respect, and success. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
It's good to have new blood. Commissioner Stango, 10.2, please.
10.2, Waterbury Arts Magnet School Assistant Principal number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee on School Personnel, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools recommends approval of the appointment of Maria P. Stasis as the Waterbury Arts Magnet School Assistant Principal effective February 21st, 2018, respectfully submitted and so moved.
Second. Discussion. Deputy Superintendent.
Thank you. Again, it's my pleasure to present this evening Maria Pesh Stasidis. I practiced that one. She'll be my recommendation for candidate as vice principal at, again, Waterbury Arts Magnet School. Mr. Sidis has been a teacher for 13 years, a reading teacher currently at North End Middle School, and she's a co-manager of a team coaching, mentoring program at her school. She's a proven person with a record of success on behalf of students, and it's my pleasure to present her to the board as well.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Watt,
Absolutely.
Vice President Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano Adorno,
Yes.
Commissioner Stango,
Yes.
Commissioner Sweeney,
Yes.
Commissioner Theriault,
Yes.
Commissioner Jason Van Stone,
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Van Stone,
Yes.
President Brown.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you all. I want to thank each of you for the opportunity to continue to serve our Waterbury community. I also want to thank my family, my friends, my husband Stan, and my 2 little girls for their love and support. Waterbury is a place that I'm passionate about, having been born and raised here. I've had the privilege to be a teacher here for the past 13 and a half years, and am now honored to take on my new role as the assistant principal of the Waterbury Arts Magnet School. I am confident that through partnering with you all, the administrative team, the school staff, community, families, and students, we can continue to uphold the WAM's core beliefs and values and continue to set high standards for all. Please accept my most sincere pledge of my full commitment, devotion, and energy to our students and families. Thank you again.
Thank you. Well deserved. We expect great things.
He's got another one. Did you write one?
Oh, right. Did you write one? Okay, Commissioner Stango, 10.3. You're very busy this evening. Did you write one?
Okay.
For this?
10.3 is a request for approval for the new position of Human Resources Associate in Education to replace the current position of Human Resources Assistant grant-funded personnel.
Second.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee on School Personnel, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools recommends approval of the job specifications for and the new position of Human Resources Associate in Education to replace the current position of Human Resources Assistant grant-funded personnel. Respectfully submitted and so moved.
Second.
Discussion.
In discussion, Madam President, I'm going to ask Mr. Brinker to come up here.
Good.
We had a committee meeting tonight regarding this, and because of time commitments, we had to move it quickly. So
Appreciate
Mr.
that.
Brinker will fill in the whole board and what he filled us in at the committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Stango. This is a new position. However, it is a reduction from a current position. We will abolish one human resources assistant. We will not fill it. It will not be frozen. It will be eliminated. This position is necessary because of the growth in the grant workforce that we have. We need a person to process the paperwork for all the grant employees. Currently, we don't have that person. The salary and the job requirements are reduced. Any questions?
Any questions from the committee? Thank you. Seeing none.
Okay.
Roll call vote. You don't need a vote?
We need a vote.
Okay. Okay. What is your pleasure? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we'll go back to the consent calendar. Is there anybody who would like anything removed from the consent calendar? Commissioner Theriault.
Yes, President Brown, I would like items 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, and 8.5 removed from the consent calendar. Thank you.
8.1, 8.2.
So you're not in favor of a consent calendar this evening?
No, I didn't say that. What I said was, and I'll repeat it, I would like item 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, and 8.5 removed from the consent calendar.
8.5.
All right, let's start then. Committee of the Whole, 8.1, request approval of a memorandum of understanding with Fairfield University for teacher participation in the Ann E. Fowler Literacy Fellowship Program. Could I have a motion?
No, I have
Oh,
to,
go
I
ahead.
have to read it.
Go ahead.
Item 8.1, ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee of the Whole, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools recommends approval of the Memorandum of Understanding with Fairfield University for teacher participation in the Ann E. Fowler Fellowship Program. Respectfully submitted and so moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Committee on Policy. Commissioner Sweeney.
Item 8.2, ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee on Policy, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools recommends approval of the new Parent and Family Engagement Policy for Title I students, number 6172.4. Said policy replaces the board's current district-level Title I Parent Policy, number 6172.4.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. 8.3, Commissioner Sweeney, Committee on Policy.
Item 8.3, with the approval of the Committee on Policy, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools recommends approval of the revised physical restraint seclusion policy number 5144.1.
Is there
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. 8.4, Committee on School Facilities and Grounds. Commissioner Theriault.
With the approval of the Committee of School Facilities and Grounds, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools recommends the approval of the use of school facilities by outside organizations, subject to fees and insurance as required.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Commissioner Theriault, 8.5, Committee
What-
on, sorry,
Go ahead.
Committee on School Facilities and Grounds.
With the approval of the Committee on School Facilities and Grounds, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools recommends approval of the use of school facilities at no charge by the following school organizations and city departments.
Second?
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. We're going to number 11 now. Committee on Finance, Commissioner Awad.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the approval of the Committee on Finance, the Deputy Superintendent of Schools recommends approval to apply for the Connecticut State Department of Education Primary Mental Health Program Grant 2017-18, which is a continuation of Duggan and Wendell Cross Schools, respectfully submitted by Dr. Hammond. Mr.
Second.
Hagan.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 13, Superintendent's notification to the Board.
Motion to receive and place on file superintendent's notification to the board, items 13.1 through 13.7.
Second?
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Going to 14, unfinished business of preceding meeting only. Comments? Seeing none. 15, other unfinished, new, and miscellaneous business. Commissioner
No.
Awad? Oh, I'm sorry.
John had his hand up first.
Oh,
Yeah.
Commissioner Theriault?
No, you're good.
I'll let the others go. Go ahead.
No, let him.
Thank you. I just wanted to, by way of information, say that under item 13.4, I did a little extra homework and did determine that the selection committee is made up of teachers from our area middle schools. And I'm understanding that that selection process is already underway and notification of selection and admission into the Career Academy have already gone out. The reason I bring it up is if you look at the academy, I believe the original design, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Sweeney, was for 800 students. We are over-enrolled. And I would caution that we stop over-enrolling because it does a disservice to the programs that are up there. So I would just ask that we hold to the amount of children that we're supposed to be taking, which would be, if you want to take 205, because we might have a few drop out, that's fine. But to enroll 230 and 235 students every year burdens the facility, taxes the teachers, and does not provide the quality of the type of education for the career pathways that we intended up there. And that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Deputy Superintendent, if you could look into that for us. Thank you. And now, who is next?
Tom?
Commissioner?
No.
There-
Theriault.
Go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead, Commissioner Vanstone.
Thank you, Madam President, through you. I just want to go back over the last few weeks. This board's been quite busy. We've had quite a few meetings,
Yes.
contrary to us breaking out to only 2 a month, so to speak. I think in the last 3 weeks, we might be in double digits.
Yeah.
So for those of you who thought we're skating our duties by going to 2 a month, that's been
Yep.
our last couple weeks for just about all of us at some point in time. So I want to go back over 2 in particular that we've held. A few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it is now, we held a workshop over at Wilby. One of the items that was discussed in detail was attendance and briefly the discipline policy. We heard, as I termed, and I'll use my term, as excuses for why students aren't attending school. However, one that is not an excuse, but definitely a reason, and we're seeing way too much of it, is bullying. And we don't talk about the effect on attendance that bullying has. We have a lot in place to help the students who are disrupting school. A lot. As far as I'm concerned, we're ignoring the children that are being bullied. They're ignored when their parents complain. It's allowed to go on too far, and it's time it stops. We need to address and assist those students that are being affected by bullying. It's long overdue. There's a lot of talk and no action. We have more special committees between the city boards and this board to look at everything from intervention for the students causing the disruptions, our phony stats to talk about fewer suspensions. There are only fewer because we're not doing what we're supposed to do. It's time we address the bullying issue. It's all too often that we see things in the paper, we see things with our own eyes, and we certainly hear with our ears from the public at large that bullying is taking place, but then we get told that things like suspensions are down. The second thing is, when the curriculum committee met last week, we spent 2 hours and probably could have spent double that having a fantastic conversation with our ILDs. Mr. Schwartz, Mr. Henry was in the crowd as well. A fantastic conversation going through the numbers. Unfortunately, once again, our numbers are the ones we don't want to hear. And I'm not saying we don't try. And with the new superintendent on the horizon, we need to address how we think outside the classroom. And this was one of the things I had brought up in the past. Things like pathway to technology, the model that we saw firsthand, Commissioner Hernandez and I, along with many other folks, down in Brooklyn, New York, about 3 years ago. There's others out there. There's a prep academy in Michigan that is doing great things in the inner city. And there's a number of other type of activities out there that we should be offering our students. We made a good step doing the academies at Crosby. And from what I see, they're doing a good job. One of the things we don't address is the basic interest of the student wanting to come to school. You know, we had some numbers on why they don't want to come to school, and I'm not really ready to sit here and say because it was a late arrival because of weather, or they would have had to walk if they missed their bus. No, we need to make interest the things that keep the kids in the classroom and interested. And I know we have the teachers that can do it. I watched as a teacher at Wilby in history, started the year when he had to teach, not had to, but he was teaching World War II. He actually set up 2 bunkers in his classroom. He allowed the students to throw paper balls at each other. However, when you opened the paper balls, there were questions about World War II you had to answer. The kids had a blast, and guess what? They learned history. They learned about World War II. It can be done, and I think we have mostly the teachers in place to do it. We just need to look. And as far as I'm concerned, the numbers that were brought to us, whether there's reasons about not being inner city type questions, which we did see one example of, as far as I'm concerned, we all should be embarrassed by the results. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Commissioner Harvey? Commissioner Theriot.
Commissioner Theriot.
Did you want to go, Commissioner Harvey?
No, go for it.
Go ahead.
I have two items I respectfully want to discuss a bit. One is the recent change in the way we distribute information. In the past, we were always told as board members, for at least the last 10 years I've been on the board, to go through the clerk of the board, request the information. The clerk of the board would go to the various departments and make the information available. Now, I'm not patting myself on the back because I know other commissioners have done an equal amount of research, but I have spent over 300 hours in the schools videotaping deplorable conditions, which I put on Channel 16 or channel whatever it was at the time, much to the dismay of various administrations in the city, both educationally and otherwise. At one point, I was even told to stop. Would you stop? I said, no, I will not stop. I have kept track of the ED006s for the past at least 14, 15 years. The actual enrollment, the graduation rates using the ED006s, which incidentally I requested last month, and I was ignored. Ignored. Imagine. A commissioner on the Board of Education ignored? Unbelievable. To the point that I had to resort to a Freedom of Information Commission request to get the ED006s for 2013, 14, 15, 16, and 17, which were readily available through the clerk of the board in the past at a moment's notice. I don't know what the log jam is, what the ice jam is. I don't know what the attitude is. I know I am cantankerous. I know I am obnoxious at times. And I know I am sometimes too much. But I'm not going to change. I'm going to be the same. As I said before, I'm 100% for the students in the city of Waterbury, and I have done that research on those testing scores. It took me hundreds and hundreds of hours to get the information. Hundreds and hundreds of hours to collate the information. And even when I wasn't on the board previously for 4 years, I continued to collate that information, hoping that I'd come back on the board and be able to share and disseminate this information. Now all of a sudden, there seems to be a new policy, no policy. The new policy, no policy was determined by 7 board members at an informal meeting, and it was decided this new policy will be that we will distribute information at periodic times and that we will get information periodically through committees and subcommittees. Personally, that's not good enough for me. I think a reasonable amount of time, if information is available, within a week's time, the information should be available to me and any other board member. Now, I was told this is not an official policy. It was determined at a meeting that was a bona fide meeting, but it wasn't on the agenda. So how can this particular item be on the agenda? So I guess it's just informal discussion. And then supposedly, President Brown informed me of what the new policy is. I don't have it in my hand, but basically it's kind of what I just described. And I really take umbrage with it because I think that as a commissioner or as a Board of Aldermen member, you should be able to go around to any city or department, and if you request the information in the appropriate chain of command, you should be able to get the information. This new business of log jamming, blocking, filtering, and so forth is nothing more than a method, I think, of filtering the data and not letting the public know what's going on. So that's what I have to say about the new policy, no policy, because I don't quite know. Maybe Commissioner Brown or someone else could give us a new description of what the policy is, and we could bring it before the board and we could vote on an actual policy. This is an informal discussion. We have an informal discussion of 7 members. Then we have an informal policy that applies to everyone. Well, I don't buy it, and I think it strains the real purpose of freedom of information. And I, for one, if I don't get my data in a reasonable amount of time, I will file a freedom of information each and every time and keep the Corporation Council very busy providing the information for the good of the order. That's my first thing. Second thing is, I would like to know what the policy would be regarding intimidating and disrespectful remarks to commissioners. I have been told that certain protocols are in place with regard to how do I want to put it? It has to remain secret and privileged if it's between 2 individuals. Well, that being said, for all board members in the future, I would like to know what protocols are in place and what do we do if we receive either voicemails, emails, or communications that are intimidating, disrespectful, of any nature. What procedures should be followed outside of saying you can't discuss that because that was a privileged information between the 2 of you? The matter I'm speaking about, 3 people knew about it. So I always say if more than one person knows about it, it's not a secret anymore. But 3 people knew. But that being said, I don't mean to embarrass anybody. And quite honestly, we'll see what happens as we go forward in the future. And maybe President Brown can develop a protocol and a new protocol for distributing information, because the Corporation Council is going to get very sick of my FOIs, I'll tell you that. Thank you for listening to me. With all due respect to the other commissioners, I'm sorry I had to bring this up in such a fashion, but I feel it is for the good of the order and the good of the students, and all the work that I've done on this board for the past 10 years. Having been in education for 49 years, I can tell you I have never in my life been treated so disrespectfully in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
As a point of information,
Yes, go ahead.
just, John, to save some of your, not anxiety, but your legwork on the ED006s are on the board's website, are on our homepage. If you just Google it, you'll find them. That will help you and cut down on your paper budget.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And Commissioner Theriault, no disrespect intended. The meeting that we had with CABE was a continuation of our work, and it was just, everybody felt that this would be a way to streamline communication. I totally agree with you, Commissioner. All the information commissioners need, it was just to get kind of like a flow of information. It was never meant or intended to prevent you or any other member from obtaining information. But it was to try to streamline the process, keep information flowing, go through leadership who could go to the right, department head. But I'm very willing to discuss it with you or any other members, because I would never want anyone to feel that they're being disrespected, and I apologize for that sincerely, because I know how hard you work. I really do, John. And I think, again, it was just, everybody was talking about how we can be a more efficient board, and we thought this was a recommendation that staff had to say, we want to get you the information, can we do it in a timely manner? That was my interpretation. I don't know if anybody else has another interpretation, but that's what I thought we kind of agreed upon. So if that's really something that you're very, that doesn't fit your need, I think we should talk about it. I'm glad you brought it up, John.
I understand the need for continuity in terms of distributing information, but it took so long to get the results of the SBAC test and the SAT test this last time, I've often said to you, the board, it's like pulling teeth. I feel like not a commissioner, but a dentist pulling teeth, trying to get the information from us and trying to get it from the state. It almost seemed like the state was so embarrassed by the test results that they were dragging their feet in providing the information to us. Now I've been working on some other data, and I'm missing some state averages and so forth, and I think that I should just be able to pass that information through the clerk of the board and get that data. No. That's not the new protocol. The new protocol is to go through the deputy superintendent, with all due respect, and to go through Darren Schwartz, and to go through Bob Brink. Okay? I don't see the need for all that when you can just do the old procedure and pass it through the clerk of the board and get the data. So I failed to see, and recently, Mr. Brinker is in the room. Recently, I had a problem that someone told me about with regard to West Side. It took me nearly a month to resolve the problem and get the information with regard to what was the chronological order of events that transpired with regard to the moisture problem. Now, I approached Mr. Brinker about what someone told me was an alleged mold problem. He said there is no mold problem. But he didn't tell me about the problems, the moisture problems that had been over at Westside for over 5 years. And with pictures to prove what looked like mildew and moldy jackets. I'm not saying they were, but they could have, and I still have the jacket. It was given to me by the teacher. And yet, no testing was done. First there was testing, then there was no testing. I just think we need to be more cooperative in communicating information to each other. I know Mr. Brinker does a great job. It's a very difficult job. And Shannon Sullivan equally does an equally good job. And I'm very happy with his performance. But when I am the chairman of the Facilities and Grounds, I expect information in a timely manner. And if I ask about mold and there's no mold, okay, you say there's no mold, but then you tell me about the moisture problem. You be open about it, transparent about it. And these are the things that kind of frustrate me going forward, to say, hey, there's no mold, so you don't need to know anything more. That doesn't cut it with me. So, as I said, I know Mr. Brinker does a good job, and I know Shannon Sullivan does a good job, and everybody's pushing forward. And yes, I'd like to discuss this with you, Commissioner Brown, with regard to getting information and not having it seem as though there's some degree of filtering, some degree of blocking, some degree of intimidation going on here. I look forward to that conversation in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Hernandez.
John, I think when we were at the meeting and it was brought up about possibly going through the heads, I think we were thinking of Carrie also. She does all our work actually, and I think maybe sometimes she may get a little behind, and if someone was calling, asking for something, she would feel like she'd have to get that right away, which some of her work got backed up. This way, when we just go through Mr. Henry, or Bob, or Darren, she can wait later on in the day and get that information to them, which can be sent to us. I think, too, we were just really thinking about Carrie, too. She's an excellent secretary, and we didn't want her to be very, very overwhelmed. I don't think anybody thought to or felt like we were disrespecting anyone, so I'm also sorry that you felt that way.
Commissioner Harvey.
Yeah, just
Vice
to-
President Harvey.
Thank you. Just to piggyback, the thinking was also that we had, Commissioner Theriault, the thinking was also that with the deputy superintendent coming in, we really didn't have a process in the past. I mean, we would go directly to, because I know I've needed information as well, and I would just go to whomever, and the superintendent never knew that I asked for the information. This way, the deputy superintendent, Bob and Darren, know, what's being asked, so that there's not control, being transparent, but also that at least the deputy superintendent would know that we are asking for this information. In the past, as I said, because, you ask for more information than I do, but when I ask for information, I wouldn't go to the superintendent. I would go to the department heads or whatever and just ask for it. So I think that was what we were trying to achieve there as well.
Commissioner Theriault.
Your remarks are well taken, Commissioner Harvey.
Sure.
But I think in the past, every email that went through the clerk of the board got to the superintendent's desk.
Can you
Yes, I am
speak into?
speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, every email that was sent to the clerk of the board usually got onto the superintendent's desks, whether he was copied or not.
Yeah.
I didn't go to individual department heads as you did, and I'm not saying that's improper. I'm just saying that I always put stuff to the clerk of the board.
Yeah.
And sometimes there might have been 2 or 3 requests a week. Sometimes there might have only been 2 or 3 in the course of a month. But I always put that stuff, even my responses went, if it went to in an individual, it always went to the clerk of the board.
Right.
So that there was a record kept of my communication so that someone couldn't say, well, you said that or you didn't say that.
Right.
So it was a good way to kind of cross your T's, so to speak, and dot your I's. And the clerk, that record went on, you could go back 14 years ago and get any emails that were put up, and you could, you could look at that information and see the history of what went on a particular topic. So
That's a good point.
I understand what the other board members are saying, but you understand where I'm coming from as an individual board members. I have no power individually, nor does the president of the board have any power individually, just at the meetings to run the meeting. Outside the meeting, she has no power. So I know where my power limits are. It's here as the board of a whole, not as an individual. When I went around to the schools and did the videotaping of the schools and saw such horrendous things that you wouldn't believe, and actually worked in one of those schools and got so deathly sick from the conditions of the school that I ended up with bronchial pneumonia and bronchial asthma. I had to quit the job because of the facilities at the school. Since then, they have spent about $400,000 at the school because of my complaints and other teachers becoming very, very sick at that particular school. So, it's not that I'm trying to grandstand here, I'm you. I'm the board of the whole. I'm not, it's not about Commissioner Theriault, great Commissioner Theriault, who spent 49 years in education. I don't care if I spent 49 years or I spent 4 years. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is communication, respect, continuity, ability to get information so that you can collate it, share it with other board members. I can see those periodic timelines for distributing information with regard to those monthly reports on the state grants and the federal grants, and Doreen does a great job with that. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, I sense this little bit of frustration, and I wanted to share it with you not so that you can be equally frustrated as me, but you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Commissioner Sweeney.
So I was also at that meeting, and I'm sorry, John, that you weren't there to participate in that conversation. But we, those of us that were there, did all agree that the process that was in place, going through the clerk of the board, ties up the time of the clerk of the board for her to make a request that we could simply make ourselves by addressing an email to the superintendent, Darren Swartz, and Bob Brinker. Much more efficient. Everybody knows what's going on, and the response comes back to the full board. Everybody gets the information. So I'm sorry you weren't there for that conversation, but it was a very positive conversation where everyone at the table agreed that this was a much better way to do that. On another note, we did receive today from Mr. Branker the news that Shannon is moving on to another position outside the district and will no longer be our school inspector.
Wow.
I want to make sure that I let him know that I am very appreciative of all the efforts that he put in here in Waterbury. He did a tremendous job. I want to implore that we make sure that we get on that position right away and get that filled. It's extremely important position in a district this size with buildings that are over 100 years old. We need that position filled. We already have, Shannon has set the bar quite high. We know what we need. We know what works. Let's go out there, get somebody that can replicate that. All my best to Shannon. I wish him well.
Excellent, I agree. Commissioner Hernandez.
Bob, or Deputy Superintendent Henry, I am at Walsh School 3 days a week. Downstairs on the, well, I guess it would be the second floor, not the basement, but as you come into the building on the far side by the playscape, the floors are coming up. I actually took pictures, so I do have pictures to show you. But we need to get somebody over there to take a look at the floors on that level before somebody gets hurt. Thank you.
Any other? We do have executive session. Could I have a motion, please? I'm sorry, Commissioner Theriault.
With regard to Commissioner Sweeney's remarks, well taken. The request for information to the clerk of the board is usually not done by the clerk of the board herself, but passed on to other individuals. And to hold back information because we want the other board members to get the information at the same time, I think is kind of redundant and ridiculous. I have no problem with the other board members if the ED006s weren't online. I have no problem with the other board members getting the information, the ED006s or other information at the same time I get. I have no problem with that. But I want to get it in an expedited manner and not have to wait for a month and have people ignore my emails and not respond at all. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And I send another message back to the clerk of the board. What is the status of this? Oh, I passed it on. That's all I can tell you. I passed it on. So, you know, to say, okay, we're just going to give information out every 2 months, maybe that's not what we're saying. We're saying we're going to get if you make a request, we'll get it to you in a week or two, but every other board member will get it. I have no problem with that. No problem with that at all. But it just seems to me like you make a request, it's ignored. You call the clerk of the board, I don't know what's happening with it. I haven't been told. I pass it on to the appropriate people. Now, I have followed the appropriate protocol in the future now, sending information to Bob and Darren and the assistant superintendent and the clerk of the board, and still gotten ignored. So I hope that improves in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have an executive session?
Motion to convene into executive session for discussion concerning the appointment, employment, performance, evaluation, health, or dismissal of a public officer or employee.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Are we going in the back, Bob?